Why don't we stay with you, Ezra? Kind of give me your sort of pocket history of what's happened with media in the last 5 years, kind of bringing us up to the present. Starting kind of, in the early 21st century American media, like that kind of style of pocket history of what you see that happened. And we're going to go to...
I'm going to frame it differently.
Sure.
I think to just back it up instead of what we began reading, here's the, I think, essential problem for media, or the essential thing we're dealing with, which is that for the vast majority of the 20th century, if you think about this like an economist always says, what is relevant scarcity in any given place, right? What do people not have enough of, so they're fighting over? The relevant scarcity that the media attempted to address, what our business was based upon, was information. People did not have enough information about the world around them. And you lived in a town or a city and you had a newspaper or two newspapers if you were lucky. There were a couple channels that did news for an hour or two a day. You had the radio. You did not have much information. And I think that an enormous amount of the news culture, not just newspapers as like a technological artifact, but also how we report the news, how we do a lot of the actual writing of it, was about trying to give people as much news as we possibly could, given the actual space we had to talk with them and given their enormous appetite. The dramatic change, I think, which is driven by technology, but is not, in my view, fundamentally technological, is that now we are confronted, the primary problem media is attempting to solve to some degree is abundance of information. People have much too much information. It isn't to say they don't still need news broken. It isn't to say somebody doesn't need to get that news first. All of that remains true and critical, but from the perspective of a consumer, it's happening. It is completely overwhelming. And so it is a dramatic change in how you have to run a media business if you're moving from trying to get people information they didn't have to trying to help people sort through this absolute torrential flood of information they do have, and not just that they do have, but is being pushed at them, that is being emailed to them, that is being tweeted at them, that are hearing about on TV. And I don't think we've completely made that transition, but I do think if you think about a lot of the forms that have emerged in recent years, blogging, of course, began. I'd say the person you kind of have to credit with really figuring out the form is Instapundit, who was really just a kind of a links aggregator. He was a way of sorting out the amazing amount of abundant information we could get. I think a lot of what blogging ended up doing with the quoting and the sort of styles of writing also had to do with a kind of aggregation. Obviously now products like the Atlantic Wire that are a very big deal. The kind of listicle nature of BuzzFeed and to some degree the Huffington Post, again, is a way of bringing order. At Wonkblog, we spend a lot of time using mechanisms like X in one graph or this in 2 minutes to try to reduce like the cognitive anxiety of learning about complicated topics in a world where you don't have enough time. But I do think that a lot of the changes being driven now are people trying to figure out how to move from, okay, your problem is information and we're going to give you information, to your problem is too much information and we're going to help you find your way through it and understand how to process it.